Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, President Trump yesterday triumphant at the White House, major UFC mixed martial arts event. It was his 80th birthday, and pride, patriotism were on display. It was an incredible show that was put on at the White House. Liberals, of course, were going absolutely berserk. And what amazed me was that the very same moonbats that were railing and ranting about how dare you have a UFC cage fight at the White House or a motocross event to celebrate Trump's 80th birthday and obviously the upcoming festivities of the 250th anniversary of our birth as a nation, suddenly didn't have much to say when it came to the Iran deal. Because that, for President Trump, at least this is what he said, was the ultimate birthday gift. And so, on Sunday morning, President Trump said he got what he wanted for his 80th birthday. Yes, he wanted the big event with the UFC. Yes, he wanted that motocross race and the fireworks and the show that took place later that night. But for him, he now says Iran and the United States have achieved a deal. A deal. And according to the president, this is what he wrote on Truth Social, quote, "The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ships of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow." President Trump now says, according to him, this is one of the best deals ever. I'm almost quoting him verbatim. One of the greatest deals ever made. He is extremely proud of it. He sent J.D. Vance on the talkies yesterday to promote it, to defend it, to explain it. And from everything I've been reading, it now appears that President Trump, at a bare minimum, will be sending the vice president to Geneva, Switzerland, for a formal signing ceremony this Friday, June 19th. In fact, the president may even go himself. So, the war, for now, is effectively over. So the question is, what are the terms of the deal? Now, we don't know everything in the deal because they're only going to release the full text after the signing on Friday. However, J.D. Vance, and he's the senior administration official that you keep reading about in the press over the last 24 hours. That's J.D. The White House has been explaining or telling reporters, talk show hosts, media outlets, basically the key points or the key framework of the deal. So here it is. Upon the signing of and it's a memorandum of understanding. That's the first point. It is not a treaty. It is not some kind of an agreement. This is not binding by international law. It's a memorandum of understanding between the United States and Tehran. On the signing on Friday, the Iranians have agreed to fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz toll-free. They will not be charging tolls. They're not allowed to charge tolls. In exchange for that, the United States will immediately, on Friday, lift our naval blockade that has strangled the Iranian economy and especially their oil exports. So, what is going to happen, it's already happening now, just the news of the deal itself, just that alone, has sent the price of a barrel of oil, crude oil, tumbling to $83 a barrel. With the Strait of Hormuz now reopened, with the blockade now lifted, so Iran can also sell some of its oil, you are going to see the price of oil, and especially here in the United States domestically, the price at the pump, gas prices, come down, and I mean come down like a rock. So, hopefully, within a couple of months, as the shipments start going through, the oil tankers start going through, the energy flows start going through, this will completely stabilize world markets, and we will have gas here, hopefully, at about $2 a gallon, just in time for the midterm elections. Now, I think there's no question, as I said on my post on X last night, this is a big win for Trump. This part of the deal, this provision in the deal, is a big win. Domestically, he needs energy prices, oil, gas prices to come down. And with those prices coming down, it is going to put a downward pressure on inflation. Inflation is going to come down, and that is going to strengthen the president and Republicans going into the midterms. So, no question, this aspect of the deal is a win. It's a big win. However, the most contentious issues, the most intractable issues, the key issues, because remember, the Strait of Hormuz was open before the war. So in some sense, it's great that it's going to be reopened, don't get me wrong, but we're just returning to the status quo ante. We're just returning to how things were on February 27th, nearly 4 months ago, when the war began. What the war was fought about, what the war was fought on, that still remains unresolved, even in this memorandum of understanding. Because the key issues, Iran's nuclear program, the dismantlement of their entire enrichment process, the stockpiles of enriched uranium, highly enriched uranium, none of that has been addressed. None of that has been agreed to, because then this memorandum of understanding kicks off a 60-day ceasefire, and apparently it's supposed to be a complete ceasefire. So the war is over. Nobody should be shooting at each other. And then a 60-day negotiations. And that's when our team will continue to negotiate with the Iranian team on all of these key nuclear issues with the Iranians. Now, in principle, Iran has said they will not acquire a nuclear weapon. That is enshrined in the Memorandum of Understanding. They cannot develop a bomb. They cannot make a bomb. They cannot purchase a bomb. President Trump now says, with this solemn promise from the Iranians, combined with the reopening of the strait and the world oil now flowing again the way it did before, this is one of the greatest victories in the history of the United States, according to the president, and that, as he put it, I have delivered peace in our time. Listen now to J.D. Vance. J.D. was sent out on the talk shows. Both he and Trump say that this deal will now deliver peace, prosperity, and stability, not just to Iran, not just to the United States and Iran, but to the entire Middle East. Roll cut 1, Mike.
I think it's a big moment for the United States of America, thanks, of course, to the president's leadership and the hard work of the entire team. Three things that I think are important for the American people just to appreciate about what this deal does for all of us as Americans. Number one, this is the immediate opening of the Straits of Hormuz and, of course, the lifting of the naval blockade that we've had on Iran along with it. The number two thing that it means is that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and not just pursue a nuclear weapon, but procure or try to buy a nuclear weapon as well. That's built into this agreement. And then the third thing is, and this only happens, to be clear, if Iran delivers on their promise. And so there's an approach here where we verify and where there are real benefits so long as Iran meets their end of the obligation.
So basically, he says there are enforcement mechanisms, verifiable restraints put into the agreement that if Iran cheats, they will not get money. This is a key issue now. The sanctions eventually will be lifted on Iran. I'm going to get into that. President Trump now in multiple Truth Socials on his social media platform, and then obviously he sent out J.D. Vance to go to the talk shows and talk to the media. Now says the deal is done. Iran has signed it. We have signed it. The United States has. Other groups have signed it as well, other countries. Pakistan, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Turkey, many other countries now have signed as well. There is going to be a lavish signing ceremony in Switzerland this Friday. We will now lift the blockade on all of Iran's ports, so they can now receive shipping, they can start feeding their own people, and they can start exporting their own oil. They will also immediately reopen the Strait of Hormuz, so gas prices should be coming down, and they should be coming down quick. So, as I said in my monologue, there's no question. Domestically, this is a victory for the president. He needed the strait opened. He got it opened. Now, the big issue is now what happens with Iran's nuclear program. President Trump now says they have achieved the mother of all victories because Iran, the mullahs, the IRGC, have now committed themselves in principle in the Memorandum of Understanding that Iran will not pursue, acquire, develop, make, or buy or purchase a nuclear weapon. And so as far as Trump is concerned, the objective of the war has been achieved. Iran will never get the bomb. And he says that's all he wanted. That was the purpose of this entire mission. Mission now accomplished. And now it's going to be a 60-day negotiation process whereby slowly but surely, Trump says the Iranians are going to have to give up their ability to enrich uranium. They're going to have to dismantle their nuclear infrastructure. And they're going to have to either destroy or give back or give away, forgive me, or dispose of the highly enriched uranium that is now buried under 3 nuclear sites. As long as they have the potential to grab the enriched uranium, they can always pursue or make a bomb. And so Trump says eventually either they destroy it or we will have to go in there ourselves and get it. But he says that's for the negotiators to iron out over the next 60 days. Now, let me just say this, and then I want to open it up to the great audience of Kuhner Country, 617-266-6868, because I want to hear from all of you. This is the defining moment of Trump's second term, and how this deal is seen, how this deal is interpreted, and the impact it will have on his presidency and clearly on the upcoming midterms. I don't trust the mullahs as far as I can throw them. My position on this has not changed because they have not changed. For 47 years, they have lied. For 47 years, they have cheated. Because according to their fanatical Shia theology, you can lie to the infidel. It is permitted. In fact, it's almost mandatory to lie to the infidel to pursue the goals of a Muslim global caliphate. Now, remember, in Obama's deal, the JCPOA, as it was called, okay, Iran in that deal committed that they would never acquire a nuclear bomb. They agreed with Obama in that phony baloney, that garbage deal, that they would never go for a bomb or get a bomb. They lied. Under the previous supreme leader, the one that was killed in the first couple days of the war, Ali Khamenei, whose son now is the new supreme leader, Ali Khamenei issued a religious fatwa, apparently, saying we must never get the nuclear bomb. And what were they doing behind the scenes? Everything possible to develop and acquire a nuclear bomb. So, they've had religious fatwas saying they're never going to go nuclear. They did a deal with Obama, and that was a treaty. Okay, that was an agreement. Not a memorandum of understanding, but an agreement. And they still pursued a bomb, even though they said they never would. So to me, I'm sorry not to rain on the president's parade, but a promise from the Ayatollahs or from the IRGC isn't worth the paper it's printed on. And so to me, what I see is a weak deal. It may be very good on the oil and energy side because now gas prices are going to come down. Phenomenal. But none of the key intractable issues that started the war, that were the casus belli of the war. Okay, what do you make now? A couple of questions. What do you make of this deal? Whatever, memorandum of understanding, whatever you want to call it, that has been signed by both Iran and the United States. Trump electronically signed it. The Ayatollahs the Ayatollah and the IRGC, the military council, have signed it. There's going to be a formal signing ceremony this Friday, but the deal has been inked. Are you happy with it? Are you not happy with it? It will, or it should, drop the price of gas and oil considerably. I think reduce inflation, at least somewhat. I think there's no question. And it does put the Iran issue now, at least for another 2 months, on the back burner as they negotiate Iran's nuclear program. So it gives Trump now breathing room to really focus on the midterms. If you were looking for regime change, which is one of the key goals when Trump started the war, you're not getting regime change. In fact, Trump said yesterday in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, these are his words directly, I never cared for regime change. That for me was never a mission or purpose or aim of the war. So he says he was never interested in regime change, never from the beginning. Furthermore, President Trump says this is one of the greatest deals in history because he believes it will guarantee, in his words, peace in our time, especially in the Middle East. That if they go through with the 60-day negotiations, not only will Iran then commit to never having a nuclear weapon, and its enriched uranium will either be destroyed or disposed of, and they will not have the capacity to enrich uranium, hence they can never acquire a nuclear weapon. They will then have all sanctions lifted. Furthermore, they will have access to about $100 billion in unfrozen assets. So he says that Iran will become very rich from this deal. They can sell as much oil as they want, and they're going to get literally tens and tens of billions of dollars, including a lot of it in cash. So the regime will be flush with money to both economically rebuild and to some extent, not nuclear, but conventionally, militarily rebuild. Listen now to J.D. Vance. because they're claiming with a defanged Iran, a denuclearized Iran, economically now rehabilitated through the lifting of the sanctions and the unfreezing of all these assets, this will lead to regional peace and regional prosperity, not just for Iran, but for its neighbors, for everyone in the Middle East. That Trump has now achieved what no president has ever been able to accomplish. Not just an end of conflict with Iran, a normalization eventually of relations, but an Iran integrated into the world and integrated into the Middle East. A new dawn is being born across the Middle East. Roll cut 1A, Mike.
But if the Iranians comply with his deal, it is going to fundamentally transform the Middle East for the next 50 years. It's going to end the war. It's going to make the Middle East more investable. It's going to mean a lot of prosperity, lower energy prices for the American people. This region of the world has been a basket case for my entire life and longer than that. And what the president has really set us to do is to certainly eliminate the nuclear threat of Iran. That's done. But now possibly to build to a new era of Middle East prosperity and success, where it's not a region of the world where the United States has to worry about so much, but where, frankly, we can generate a lot of prosperity for the American people out of that region. That's a very, very big win, and it all happened because the president stuck with it.
So it's a big win. We've won the war. We've won the peace. It's a new Middle East. And Trump has achieved everything he wanted to accomplish. Agree, disagree. I don't agree. I don't agree. I'm not saying militarily we didn't win. Of course we won. We destroyed Iran's military. We dismantled their ability to wage war. We have set their nuclear program back at least 10 to 15 years. So militarily, we have pounded them and defeated them. However, the key words were when JD said, if they agree to the deal, they're not going to agree to this deal. You're not going to change the snake. The snake is the snake is the snake. You're not going to change the nature of the mullahs and this regime. And furthermore, I wish they would stop overselling everything because it's hurting their credibility, personally. This is not the greatest deal of all time. It's not even close. This is not peace in our time. It's not even close. This is not going to, quote, transform the Middle East. Absolutely not. The Middle East has been a disaster for 2,000 years. For 2,000 years. And all of a sudden now, what, the mullahs are going to wake up and they're all going to become Swiss bankers and Swiss investors? Iran is going to become Switzerland? And suddenly they're going to want to make a deal here and a deal there. And, oh, yeah, come. No, we make deal. We make deal. You make money. We make money. Everybody make money. Iran will never give up its nuclear ambitions. They're stalling for time. They're kicking the can down the road. They're waiting for the midterms. And they're going to do everything they can, even whatever enforcement mechanisms you try. They're going to play and play and play like they played under Obama when they signed that 10-year JCPOA. No, this is not an enrichment. Or if it is an enrichment, it's civilian grade and not military grade. And they're just going to drag along and jerk us around and string us along. That's what they do. Israel feels profoundly betrayed. Benjamin Netanyahu, in private, says this is a disaster of a deal. Because according to him, he says this leaves the Ayatollah regime in place. They're allowed to keep their ballistic missile stockpiles and their drones. And he believes they will continue to support their terrorist proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas. And he says ultimately they will never give up their ambition to acquire a nuke. President Trump has now openly, publicly rebuked. In fact, it's a slap in the face to Benjamin Netanyahu. Hezbollah had attacked Israel earlier yesterday morning. Israel struck back and hit Hezbollah's command center in southern Beirut. President Trump called up Bibi, and in fact, he leaked it to everybody. This was Trump. That, quote, Benjamin Netanyahu has, quote, no effing judgment. Okay, just very, very quick because the lines are jammed. So it has caused a lot of tension, as I was saying just before the break, in our relationship, our friendship, our alliance with Israel. Publicly now, Trump has rebuked Netanyahu. Privately, the Israelis have now said it was like a slap in the face. The two men are upset. They argued, apparently heatedly, on the phone. Bibi now wants an emergency meeting with President Trump. As I said, Trump was very angry at Israel for responding to an attack launched by Hezbollah into Israel. Israel, yesterday morning, launched a devastating strike on a Hezbollah command center in southern Beirut. Iran then vowed to launch hundreds of missiles on Israel, thereby scuttling the deal. Trump got on the phone with Bibi, and this is what he's telling the media. This is coming straight from Trump. Why did Bibi have to do, I have to clean up my language. Why did Bibi have to do a effing attack? I was so pissed off. I let him know. He has no effing judgment. I let him know that. So Trump has been telling this to multiple media outlets, and then he went on Truth Social and then said the following: Israel has the right to defend itself against threats, but the attack it was responding to was very simple and meaningless. Nobody was hurt, injured, or killed, and should not disrupt this important process, Trump wrote. There should be no more attacks by Israel anywhere in Lebanon, but there should also be no more attacks by any other party, including Hezbollah against Israel. This could be the beginning of a long and beautiful peace. Let's not blow it. But apparently, in private, Trump is furious at Netanyahu, accusing him of trying to blow up this peace deal. Netanyahu is furious with Trump, saying he is betraying and stabbing Israel in the back. So here you go. So there is now considerable diplomatic fallout from this deal. I think Trump and Bibi will patch things up, obviously, but there is now open public daylight between Israel and the United States, and there was none when this war began. So I've laid out the terms, I've laid out the conditions, I've laid out who gets what, and my question to you: do you like the deal? Do you not like the deal? And ultimately, now that the war is officially over, who won? Was this a victory for the United States? Was this a defeat for the United States? Or was this a draw, a stalemate? 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent out in the Pittsburgh area. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Jeff, what did President Reagan used to say? Trust but verify. And good morning, by the way. Trust but verify. And Jeff, I love Israel. They're our ally. I'm glad that Trump went off on Netanyahu because he's somewhat of a neocon, Jeff, when it comes to wars and stuff. And I'm glad he's our ally. He's our buddy. I know in the Bible it says we never condemn Israel as an enemy because of what God told Abraham in Genesis, but liberals won't understand that because they read the manifesto, not the Bible, Jeff. But Jeff, me and you are students of history. You're more of an instructor. I'm more of a student. But we will forget more than they'll ever know on the left as far as dealing with the Middle East, Iran, Mesopotamia, Tigris, Euphrates, the whole area, Jeff. You know, the whole history of the whole area, even going back to the biblical times.
Dave, what do you make of this deal? Do you support it? Do you not support it?
I support it, but I don't trust the Iranians, Jeff. You know what I'm saying? I like you said, I don't think it's worth the paper's print. I agree with it in theory, but like, you know, it says in the Quran, lie to the infidel. To them, we're the infidel, the great Satan, Israel, the little Satan. But no, Jeff, I don't trust these 7th century freaks, because that's what they classify themselves of. Am I correct, Jeff? What the media's been saying and everybody's been saying, 6th or 7th century terrorists. That's what they are, Jeff.
Well, I think that's why I think it's a weak deal. Look, I agree with you. Look, it ends the war. It will lower gas prices, no question. It ends the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz. That's a big win for Trump. There's no question. And I think if everyone's fair, look, Iran's, you know, everyone's saying, oh, Obama got a better deal than Trump. I go, what planet are you people living on? Trump has annihilated their military. Trump has smashed their nuclear program. What the hell did Obama do except send them pallets of cash? No, it smashes their nuclear program. It sets it back at least a generation. And he's effectively destroyed or badly degraded Iran's military. The IRGC, the Iranian regime, is not what it was on February 27th. There's no question. However, they survive. The regime change did not happen. They're still there. They have damaged their neighbors. They have, you know, the way I look at it is this, Dave. In 2022, at the previous World Cup, and trust me, this will all make sense to everybody in 10 seconds, England was one of the teams that was favored to win the World Cup. They're considered a great soccer power, big soccer power. And they ended up playing the United States. And the United States, certainly then, now they've gotten better, but then they were considered, a third-tier team. Well, the United States played England, and guess what? It ended in a draw. 0-0. Now, it's a draw. England didn't lose. England didn't win, but England didn't lose. The English fans were despondent, depressed. The American fans were going nuts. They were cheering. In fact, what they were saying was, you haven't beaten us in 242 years. Ha, 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 ha. So what I'm saying is, a draw for America then, 4 years ago, was considered a massive victory. Why? Because the English threw, and they had some superstars on that team, the English threw everything they had at the Americans, and they didn't beat us. So, to the Ayatollahs, to the Iranian regime, and frankly, the way they're perceived in the Middle East, this is like England, USA. Well, America was supposed to wipe them off the map. America was supposed to topple them and utterly just annihilate them. And instead, the Iranians turn around and say, yeah, you sunk our Navy. You destroyed our Air Force. That's true. You smashed our radar defenses. Yep. Okay, our entire nuclear program is buried under 3 mountains. Yep. But guess what? I'm here. I'm still standing. Israel and America threw everything they had at us. Everything. And we survived. And now we live to fight another day, and we're going to be flooded with cash if we go through with the negotiations. We'll be back, maybe even stronger than ever. So, you know, in this case, a stalemate for Iran or a draw for Iran is a victory. Does that make any sense to you, Dave? In other words, can the mullahs plausibly claim, yeah, we took the best punches the great Satan had to throw, and we're still here? What say you?
is that we weren't there for regime change initially. We were there to keep them from getting the nuclear bomb. And also, Jeff, I'd like to add an ending because I got to get to work here, buddy, is the fact that the Mossad, if they wanted to, they could easily topple this regime. They have the means and the ways. Our CIA, all gold, though they're good. The Mossad is just that much better, Jeff, because remember pre-9/11, where were we getting all our intel from? Wasn't the CIA, Jeff? Bibi Netanyahu used to be in charge of Mossad between the time he was prime minister, and he came here to warn us that there's people in Florida wanting to fly planes but not land them, Jeff, of Muslim descent. And, I trust that more than I would our own CIA, Jeff. I hate to say it, but there's so many deep staters in the company, a.k.a. CIA. It's gotten better under Trump, but I don't trust them, Jeff. You know what I'm saying, buddy?
Oh,
so
I
if
hear you.
Mossad wanted to, they could take them over.
Dave, I hear you. Well, look, this is the irony, and Dave, thank you very much for that call. And this is another reason why Israel is upset. The regime now is actually more hardline now than it was before the war. The IRGC is in stronger position in Iran now than before the war. They always were a big power in Iran. But with the previous supreme leader, the cleric, Ali Khamenei, who was genuinely respected, he was seen as a real religious leader, he was able to act as a bit of a check and balance. He was more cautious. He's a religious man, an older religious man. He always tried to avoid war as much as he can because he feared Iran could get their claw cleaned and undo 47 years of what they were trying to develop since 1979. So he always tried to keep them a little bit in check. Like fight, but underneath the radar. Proxy wars, surreptitiously, secretly. Never an open conflict with the United States. He's now gone. His son is essentially a puppet of the IRGC. So, in fact, you could make the argument that the Iranian regime now is dominated by hardliners even more than the war, than when the war began 3.5 months ago. And so Bibi's argument is, we haven't finished this, Mr. President. We got to completely decapitate the regime. We got to overthrow the regime. 617, because they'll be back. They're not going to give up. They will be back. That's Israel's argument. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Jeff in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Now, as far as Iran is concerned, I believe Iran has won, and I'll tell you why. Because our economy is rotted out. Richard Nixon took America off the gold standard. Our dollar's done. That's number one. Number two, the millions and billions and millions of illegal aliens into this country. That's a fighting army inside this country. That's number two. Number three, the Iranians are going to wait till the Democrats get in, then it's back to business again. Number four, the normies could care less, especially the boomer left-wing normies. They'll just wait until they'll wait until they're dead, and they don't care because they'll be dead. Because you see, it's all about the money. It's all about the Benjamins. Because the boomers are into the moolah, into the moolah, and as long as the moolah keeps coming in, they could care less about Iran. The boomers make up the majority, and for us Gen Xers and people below that, we'll have to suffer with this. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, look, Jeff, I don't want to look. You're making very good points as always. Okay, no question. To me, Iran winning the war, I think, is a bit of a stretch. I can't say that, only because we have done so much damage to the Iranian military and to their nuclear program. Look, I think, Jeff, part of the problem with the war, and I said this from the very beginning, the expression, you never want to overpromise and underdeliver. You always want to underpromise and overdeliver. And I think the problem is that Trump set expectations so high at the first couple days of the war. If you remember what he said, we will only accept unconditional surrender. I mean, I can play you the clips. He said unconditional surrender, nothing else. Nothing less will be acceptable. Remember what he said to the Iranian people, stand up, we are with you. Your hour of freedom is at hand. We're going to overthrow the Ayatollahs, you will take your government back. So he clearly said this was a regime change war. And I think that's why many hawks supported the war. They said, look, they've been a threat to us now for 47 years. Let's finally topple them from power. Well, you could see almost within 10 days or 2 weeks, he was starting to walk back some of the initial aims that he had set out for the war. Now, so the regime is still in power. They're still there. There is no viable alternative, at least for the foreseeable future. We don't know what they have planned behind the scenes. But as things stand right now, they've murdered all of their opponents. There is no viable political popular uprising or popular movement within Iran. And the hardliners are more in charge now than they were even before. But their nuclear program it's shattered. It's shattered. Look, you can go to bed at night for at least 10 years and not have to worry about a nuclear Iran. That's no small thing. They're going to have a very, very tough time projecting power across the Middle East. Yes, they're still giving some money to Hezbollah, but they have been severely weakened. You know, Trump kicked their face in. They're still, look, the way I look at it is this is you know how much I love boxing. I would use a boxing analogy. This was a fight, a 12-round fight, in which the heavyweight champion, the United States, was supposed to win in a knockout. They ended up winning on decision, when they go to the judges. So, yeah, we won. But the Iranians can say, I went 12 rounds, I don't know, with Mike Tyson. I went 12 rounds with Muhammad Ali. But, whatever. I went to, as Rocky, I just want to go the distance. I just want to go the distance. So they just wanted to go the distance and say, look, we went 15 rounds with the world heavyweight champion. And yeah, my face is all busted up, but I went 15 rounds. And nobody thought I could go 15 rounds. And I'm still standing. He didn't knock me out. He may have defeated me, but he didn't knock me out. That's the way I would categorize this. Anyway, just my opinion, Jeff. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. And I think, to be honest, that's the ambivalence many people feel. On the one hand, you're like, well, how much more can you hit them with? And we did get the Strait now reopened, at least for 60 days. So that's good. And that's going to help him politically, and it's going to help with the pocketbook. But on the other hand, it feels like it's not finished. It just feels like it's not completed. And I think nobody trusts the mullahs. Nobody. And just stand back objectively. They're going to do the signing ceremony in Switzerland. That's this Friday. They're going to take a few days off. Now, so we're talking now end of June. They're going to start negotiating the 60-day ceasefire. Okay, the 60-day negotiation process. That's end of June. July, August. So the 60 days is going to end at the end of August. And there's a provision in there, if they feel they're close to a deal, to extend it at least another 30 or another 60 days. Well, that takes you to the end of September, maybe even the end of October. The midterms are November 3rd. So all the Iranians have to do now is just do what they do best. Just string us along. We agree with this, but we don't agree with that. Or, well, okay, enriched uranium, but can we enrich it to 20%? Oh, no? Okay, how about 15%? No? Well, come on now. You guys aren't being fair. In other words, you can play and play and play. And before you know it, all that time is gone. Is Trump going to go to war in October? With the midterms right around the corner? I don't think so. And all the Iranians have to do is wait for November 3rd. Now, if the Democrats lose, they're in big freaking trouble. But if the Democrats win, then they've outweighted Trump. And then it's going to be a mess. It's going to be an absolute mess. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Rick in Tennessee. Thanks for holding, Rick, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, I agree with you 100%, buddy. Great minds do exist, right?
Great minds think alike. That's what they say, Rick.
That's what they say. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This timeline, 60 days, that won't get us over the hump. And I'm thinking that, you can't trust the Iranians. They don't need the slightest thing, the slightest excuse, to say the deal's off. And I don't think Israel can go 60 days without lobbing some missiles into.
Rick, can you do me a favor? I'm up against it. Hang on. Okay, Kuhner country, I'd love for all of you to weigh in. The war with Iran, at least for now, is over. They have signed a deal. It is a memorandum of understanding. It now triggers a 60-day negotiation in which Iran has pledged to never acquire a nuclear weapon or purchase or develop a nuclear weapon. They will lift or reopen the Strait of Hormuz. They'll lift their blockade. The United States will lift our blockade. And according to what JD and both Trump and JD Vance, the vice president, have now told the media, the Iranians at the end of this process will be given billions and billions of dollars. And in particular, all sanctions will be lifted on Iran so they can sell not just oil, petrochemicals, steel. They do export quite a few things with no sanctions whatsoever. And there is about $100 billion in frozen assets, many of it tens of billions cash. That will now be unfrozen and given to the Iranian regime to help them economically and in some ways militarily rebuild. Good deal, bad deal. Let's go right back to Rick in Tennessee. Rick, thanks for holding and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, you're spot on again. It's a bad deal. I was in the military in Southeast Asia. Most of my friends are veterans. We all agree the time we should have struck Iran is when we had them on their knees, when we decimated their army, or not their army, their Air Force and their Navy. They were down on the ropes. I mean, yet for some unknown reason, Trump decides he's going to be the big diplomat and and start offering all these, these deals, and they've rejected 38 deals he's put up, and they've rejected all of them. As far as a memorandum, you could take those and wipe your rear end with it. That doesn't mean anything to those people. They're playing us, and everybody can see it. And I also agree with you that Trump needs to step down the rhetoric and stop being, overplaying your hand and we're going to keep telling him what we're going to do. It makes him look very, we know he's not a politician. That's why I voted for him. That's what I love about him. But there's times when you just need to keep your cards close to your chest and not let everybody know what's going on. The other thing that sticks in my craw is, what have we accomplished? For 4 months, this war is going to cost us several $billions. Thank God we've only lost a few.
No, we haven't lost that many. Rick, it's going to cost us at least $100 billion. This is Now, look, you do what you got to do to protect your country. I get that, but it's no, Bill. Sorry, Rick. I wish it was several billion. You're looking at minimum $100 billion. But anyway, please keep going, Rick.
Was it? Who was it that came out and early on? Marco Rubio. I remember seeing him at a press conference when he was saying the reason why. Point blank, somebody asked him, why are we going to war with Iran? They didn't bother us, blah, blah, blah. And he said because Israel was going to attack first, and when we felt that once they attacked, that would drag us into the war, so we might as well get involved, and get a first strike type military mission, which, here again, who's dictating our foreign policy? Bibi Netanyahu or Donald Trump? Donald Trump had the economy up and running. We were on a roll. And then this came, and now look where we're at. The Democrats are emboldened. They've got issues up the yin-yang with what happened to the deportation. I'm here in Nashville. We had one raid, Jeff, in May of 2025, and that was it. The mayor of Nashville, Freddie O'Connell, he actually doxed ICE agents. Did DOJ do anything to him? Nada. There hasn't been a thing down here. And I don't know if you've talked to anybody if it's from this area. We are inundated with illegal aliens. Our crimes are crazy. Just like you're seeing on every other station, every other major city, rapes, homicides, carjacking. None of these people have a driver's license. They run into you. So what? They don't have insurance. You're stuck paying the bill. They tried to carjack me once with my 8-year-old grandson in the car, in my truck. Thank God the police were hot on their trail and was chasing them. But this is a nightmare. He's not keeping up with his campaign promises. He was going to get rid of crime. He was going to bring civility back to our country. Do we have civility today?
Well, Rick, Rick, thank you so much for that call, Rick. Look, one of the things I like about the deal is it does reopen the strait, and we lift the blockade. Okay, I want to ask all of you. The war is now over. They have a peace deal, or at least a memorandum of understanding. As I said, it's going to be signed. It already has been signed electronically. But there's going to be an official signing ceremony this Friday in Switzerland. J.D. Vance will definitely be going. Trump may be going. We shall see. So now that the war effectively, we'll see what happens in the next couple of months. There's a 60-day ceasefire negotiation that's going to take place. But as things stand right now, the war, the fighting ends. And Trump says he hopes it ends forever, that this is it, that they'll eventually come to a final agreement, and then we will no longer be enemies, but we will have normal, stable relations with Iran. My question to you, did the United States win the war, lose the war, or was this a draw or a stalemate? Or if you want to broaden it out even a little bit more, who ultimately you think got the better end of the deal? Iran or the United States? 617-266-6868. And what the hell? Since it's Monday, and Trump had his 80th birthday yesterday. By the way, he said that the UFC fight was great as a treat, as a birthday gift at the White House, but he said the real gift was this deal. Trump said that this was the gift that he wanted for his 80th birthday, was to have this deal to effectively end the fighting, to reopen the strait, so that the gas prices, oil prices, inflation can start coming down. So with the economy now really starting to reignite again, that the Republicans and Trump will be in a very good position heading into the midterms. So let me ask all of you, with the strait being reopened, with the naval blockade being lifted, with at least a 60-day relaxation period, a negotiation period, and this puts the Iran war now on the back burner. Does this now free up Trump to turn all of his guns on fighting the Democrats and winning the midterms? And it gets rid of the albatross of high gas prices, high energy prices heading into the all-important November elections. 617-266-6868. Mags in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mags, and welcome. Mags? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Mags. Mike, where do you want me to go to? Mark in Medford. Mark, thanks for holding, and as always, welcome. Okay, we're not making a connection with Mark. I'm starting to worry, Mike. Could it be a problem with the board? All right, Debbie and Milton. No, we're not making any connection. Mike, I'm starting to hear my own voice. There's a talk back in my ears. So, okay, we've got some technical difficulties. Okay, I don't hear myself anymore on my headphones. Okay, so as they try to just work out some of these technical glitches, let me throw this on the table then as well. For those of you who supported the war from the beginning, are you happy with this deal? Are you happy with the way this essentially now concludes? In a way, you can say, again, just I'm calling it the way I see it, like an umpire. You didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. They will not have a nuclear weapon or a bomb for at least 10 to 15 years. Their entire nuclear program has been shattered, period. Their enriched uranium is so deep and buried so deep under the ground that it will take them years to try to even get access to it. So the threat of a nuclear Iran, at least for a generation, has been set back and been eliminated. Number two, Iran now has been militarily, for the most part, destroyed and utterly degraded. It is a shadow of its former self. Trump has ripped the guts out of the Iranian military. And obviously, the Strait of Hormuz is now reopened. They do not control the strait, which would have been a big strategic defeat for the United States. And so the world's most vital energy, oil, waterway, choke point, is now open to the world and to the international community. So in some sense, Trump said, I was going to beat the Ayatollahs to a pulp. He did. He said I was going to deny them the path to the bomb. He did. And the one thing where Iran drew blood, which was obviously the Strait of Hormuz, he's now taken care of and rectified. So militarily, he can claim a big victory. And politically now, with gas prices coming back down, he can then get the economy roaring again and head into the midterms, A, saying we won in Iran, and B, the economy is back. So if you supported the war, are you happy with the war, the way it's ended? To those of you that oppose the war, do you feel justified in opposing the war? You could also make, I think, a pretty, frankly, a compelling argument. You can say the hardliners now are more entrenched than ever. That what did we get for all of this? 13 service members dead. All of our bases and facilities were hit. Our allies were hit hard. They no longer trust the United States like we did before the war, especially the Gulf states. And we've now been sucked into 4 months of fighting with the economy badly damaged, inflation resurging, gas prices very high, and Trump's poll numbers are in the 20s. that this has damaged Trump politically, and it's going to probably cost him the midterms. That's what many anti-war people are saying. So if you're against the war, do you feel vindicated? If you're pro-war, are you happy at the end result? 617-266-6868. Okay, I think we fixed our technical problems. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Good morning, Kuhner country. I'm a happy camper today, as I always am with President Trump.
Go ahead,
Let's
Russ.
put this in its proper perspective. The biggest threat to world peace and our survival is the Communist Democratic Party and the rhinos taking control of our country. Communism is the devil's right hand. Too many Americans in blue states blue states and blue cities have been brainwashed. After the midterms, if they do not comply, bombing will resume again. You can count on it. We have a true leader in the White House, not a two-faced
Okay, Russ, do me a favor. Hang on. We're going to come right back to you. We're up against the break. Just very, very quick, because I've been getting texts, well, not texts, but I've been getting emails, and on Messenger, people are saying, Jeff, trying to listen to the show, commercials keep interrupting you during these segments. It's very frustrating. That's probably because you're listening to us via streaming. And a lot of places pick up this show, say YouTube. But we have no control over that. So they can keep adding ads or commercials whenever they want. So the best way, the most secure way, I'm telling you, you will not have a problem. No glitches, no irregularities, no commercials interrupting me as I'm speaking, or the callers just dropping out. On your iPhone, iPad, or computer, just click on where your apps are. Okay, the app knob. Click on the app and then hit iHeart. When you get to iHeart, just, click WRKO, boom, download, and listen to me via the iHeart Radio app. It will be nice, smooth, no interruptions. Or, if you prefer, go to WRKO.com, and you can just download the app right there. And you can listen to me, by the way, anytime you want. You can re-listen to the show after the show. But it's all on the iHeartRadio app. That is the best way to listen to the Kuhner Man. Okay, let's go right back now to Russ in Boston. Russ, you're a Trump guy. You supported the war. You're happy with this deal. You're a happy camper. Why?
Jeff, I love commercials because they keep you on the air, and we need you on the air every day.
Thank you. Thank you. They do pay the bills.
You're welcome,
but
Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Russ.
First of all, politicians are a dime a dozen. Leaders are priceless, and never forget that. Trump is a leader, and he is priceless. There's no question about it. I'll tell you, what really gets me, what really disappoints me is the Iranians in this country and in Europe who are not ready with our help to forcefully take back their country, to free family and friends from evil leaders. I ask, what are they, cowards? I'm sorry, Jeff. To me, they're proven to be cowards. All of them, because they can parade all over the place and they can do these demonstrations. But when it comes to picking up a rifle and taking their country back, they're missing in action. And I'll tell you, they really disappoint me. Okay, now, with inflation down, interest rates down, the Communist Democratic Party will not win the midterms. They are getting time, but we are getting better time to fix the economy. And Jeff, the end, I will say this, in reference to Pope Leo. Tim, what is a just war? After they killed 10 million Jews first? Is that now a just war? You've got to do what Trump is doing now to prevent a Holocaust.
Let me ask you this, Russ. Look, I think there's no question now that Iran's nuclear program has been smashed to 1,000 pieces. It has been devastated. It lies buried under tons of rubble that will take them years to even try to dig out of. So they're not going to get the bomb anytime soon. So there's no question that he has broken their military back. My question to you is this. Do you fear that in 10 years or 15 years, especially with the money that now is going to be flowing into their coffers if they go through this whole 60-day negotiations, that they will then be able to rebuild, not just economically, but their entire military and eventually their nuclear program? In other words, is this a Pyrrhic victory? It looks like a victory, smells like a victory, but down the road, all we've done is just deferred the problem. We haven't really solved or settled anything. What say you?
We have Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance as President of the United States, and hopefully the other will be the Vice President. You can guarantee it'll never happen under their administrations. Number two, you put someone like Barack Obama or Joe Biden or any other scumbag Democrat back in power, yes, they'll have a nuclear weapon.
Interesting. Wow, interesting. Russ, as always, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470-70470. This is from 781. Jeff, you know the saying. That was then, this is now. The now is the midterms. And the only deal that matters is the deal that increases Trump's chances of keeping the House and the Senate. So, in other words, I don't want to, put words in the texter's mouth, but it settles the Strait of Hormuz for now. It's going to bring gas and oil prices down, no question. And for a while, it puts Iran on the back foot. It's not front and center anymore because they're going to be haggling and negotiating for at least 2, probably 3 months. So does this help Trump going into the midterms? And I think many of you are in fact saying yes. It's a win. Take the win and then focus on the real enemies, which are the enemies within, the commie-crats. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Okay, this is from 917. Jeff, I'm sorry, but the United States lost the war. The Iranians sent us packing. They will rebuild quickly with the help of China and Russia. They will purchase nuclear weapons, and I predict have them within 1 year. Wow, really? This episode guarantees they will get the bomb. This has been a disaster for the United States. So I think what 917 is trying to say is because now Iran was attacked, okay, whatever, you think about the war, the United States and Israel launched devastating air missile strikes. The Iranians will now argue this is what happens if you don't have a nuclear weapon as a deterrent. We're at the mercy of the United States and Israel. They can keep pounding us and hammering us and attacking us whenever they want. They will have air dominance and continue then to bomb us and bomb us and bomb us whenever they wish. So, they don't bomb North Korea. Why don't they bomb North Korea? Because North Korea has the bomb. They have a nuclear weapon. Why don't they bomb Russia? Same reason. China, same reason. So I think the argument, Pakistan, by the way, they have the bomb. Nobody touches Pakistan. India, same thing. So I think what 917 is saying is that, ironically, the irony of all ironies is that by launching this war against Iran and not killing the king, which is the regime, not overthrowing them from power, they've wounded them but not killed them. This almost guarantees that for their protection, they will either make or purchase, acquire several bombs to prevent us from ever attacking again. So it will lead to the very thing that Trump tried to prevent. Agree. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it. It's an interesting point of view. By the way, I didn't want to read the whole text. The texter said, I voted for Trump 3 times, and I said the election was stolen from him in 2020. This war broke my heart. I don't want to get into it, but I just read that key paragraph. So this is from a Trump supporter. What say you? 617-266-6868. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Was the Iran conflict worth it? Now that everything is said and done, and we have a peace deal or a memorandum of understanding, nearly 4 months, was the Iran conflict or the Iran war, whatever you want to call it, was the Iran war worth it? A, yes, it was. B, no, it wasn't. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X, and yep, I was active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER. I would love for as many of you to vote as possible. Please. I think it's a key question. And I think it's really now we're at the almost one of the defining moments of Trump's second term. It lasted nearly 4 months. It was one of the biggest wars we fought in recent memory. In the end, worth it or not worth it? Mark, we got you back in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and I'm finally glad you called it what it's supposed to be called, a conflict. This was not a war. A lot of lives on our side were not lost at all. There were no troops going in there, so I'm finally glad to hear you say conflict. But let that go. First off, I want to address all the liberal moonbats out there about the events that happened at the White House last night. Especially Hillary Clinton, who keeps putting her foot in her mouth, always making comments on, this is our house, and you're degrading it. She might want to sit this one out, seeing that her husband treated it as a, pay by the hour motel, and, Joe Biden's kid treated it as a crack house, and Joe Biden treated the front lawn like a strip joint for drag queens. So they should all just sit this one out. What do you think about that, Jeff? First of all,
Mark, I gotta tell you, man, you know how much I love you, buddy, in a non-sexual way. I only have eyes for my wife, but I love you in a non-sexual way, my friend. You and I are so simpatico, it's not even funny. I'm watching these idiots on MS Now or CNN and they're pulling their hair out. He's degrading the White House. This is our cultural moral decline on display. And I'm like, are you a UFC fight? Are you kidding me? Bill Clinton turned the Oval Office into a bordello. He turned it into a whorehouse. Joe Biden had the LGBTQ members show up at the front lawn, as you put it, shirtless, topless. You had women pretending to be men with, forgive me, their breasts exposed. Right there at the White House. Look at these babies. I seriously, Obama, the rappers that he brought in, with the F this, mother F this, the concerts, and this, the N-word flying, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, the cocaine, the crack all over the White House. So you can snort crack, whatever. You can sniff cocaine. You can snort all the cocaine you want. You can walk around topless all you want. You can get serviced by a 21-year-old intern, no problemo. But God forbid, you should have a really exciting UFC match or matches in which you've got superb top athletes who are patriots, some of them saying how much they love God after they win and saying they're proud to fight for their country. You know, by the way, Theodore Roosevelt used to box from the White House all the time. Theodore Roosevelt he was a boxer. He brought in a boxing ring. And he would spar with people all the time in the White House. So what's the problem? Trump put on an incredible show for our 250th anniversary. He didn't bring in strippers. He, wasn't getting serviced. He didn't bring in crack or he didn't bring in cocaine. He didn't bring in all these rappers dropping the N-word and the mother effer word. And so what's the problem? Really? Women weren't taking off their shirts. They weren't parading themselves naked. What's the problem? So, Mark, you are not 100, but 1,000% correct. Now, as for the Iran war deal, what say you, my friend?
I'll get to the deal in a second. I just want to mention one more thing about that. The highlight of the night, Jeff, was when one of the fighters was interviewed in the ring, and at the end of his interview on live television in front of the White House, yelled out on the microphone that Michelle Obama is a man. That was the best part of the whole night.
Mark, we have that cut. Mike, can you roll it? Obama is a man. Cut 23. Cut 23, Mike.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
I mean, they were having so much fun yesterday. I gotta tell you, it was it was the ultimate middle finger to the libs. That's what that event was. It was like, yeah, here it is. Mwah. Kiss it. Okay, Mark, what do you make of this Iran peace deal? Like, no like, agree, disagree?
I agree with Russ. I like the deal, and I think you and some of the callers are not being fair to Trump. He's put in this deal everything you, me, and everybody else wanted. It's up to Iran to promise not to renege. If they renege, Jeff, then it goes back to getting blown off the map. Okay, that's the bottom line here. And as far as Netanyahu goes, I believe Trump made it abundantly clear. Okay, this was a deal between Iran and the United States. So I have a message for Bibi. Okay, go make your own deal with Israel and Iran. Am I right or am I wrong, Jeff?
Well, I think Bibi doesn't want to deal with Iran. I think Bibi wants to continue the war.
Listen, I'm tired of fighting other people's wars, Jeff. So you know what? I'm glad Trump made this deal. You'll see how fast the oil prices come down. They already have gone down. You see how fast the gas prices come down, how inflation sits. Everything we wanted. And not to mention the fact, Jeff, I think the main reason why Trump did this is he does not like or want to see anybody get killed on either side, because that is the man he is. That is the humanitarian he is. He's not about killing people. He's about saving lives and loving people. Everybody should be like Donald J. Trump. But no, they're filled with hate for this guy because he's doing the right thing for this country and the whole effing world.
Mark, let me ask you this. You said we got everything that we wanted. I think what you mean is, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I just want to kind of nail it down. What we wanted was a denuclearized Iran. And that's what this war, whatever, this conflict delivered. It broke their nuclear infrastructure. It shattered their ability, their nuclear program, their ability to build a bomb, at least for 10 to 15 years. Now, obviously, we'd all like it to be permanent, but, in life, is anything ever really permanent? But in a sense, Iran will not pose a nuclear threat to the Middle East, to Europe, to us, or to the world for at least a generation, correct? You're saying that's what it ultimately came down to, correct?
Yes, Jeff. And like you said, you just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, Jeff, is anything in life permanent? But the thing is here, I'm going to assume that this Iran is going to be monitored from now until the end of freaking time, if it was up to me. So with this deal, I think Iran is going to be monitored in whatever they do. So I think they're really, really, really going to have to be sneaky as hell to try and even start enriching uranium again to make it weapons grade. So I think the United States, like depending who's in office after Donald Trump, if it's J.D. Vance for the next 4 years or the next 8 years, okay, and then maybe Ron DeSantis after that, I think we're going to be okay, Jeff.
I think you made that point and another caller made that point, and I think it's a very good point. Yeah, I agree with you. If, we keep MAGA conservative presidents or conservative Republican presidents, we're fine. We're definitely fine. But if another Obama or another Biden or another Kamala comes back, now I'm not so sure. Mark, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Okay. Mark and Russ say it's a win. Take the win. Ken in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Ken.
I dare say, winning again. I think we need to pull back and look historically at what we're witnessing. For those of us that are 45 years or older, there will be 2 years that were the biggest years in history for our lives. 1989 and 2026. So let me set the tables in 1989. You're not going to believe, whoa, that were big things. Guess who died in 1989, June? Oh, that would be Ruhollah Khomeini. He's who started all of this. And his right-hand man followed him, Ali Khamenei. Guess what happened about the same date, Jeff, and audience? Oh, Tiananmen Square. Wow, that really changed things, didn't it? Third thing that happened, Jeff and listeners. All during 1989, the Soviet Union was in collapse, and in November of that year, the Berlin Wall fell. Kind of a big year, wouldn't you say, Jeff?
It was a monster year. I agree with you.
I could add a personal one, but that's me. I happened to get married that year. So now we have 2026, and a lot has been happening, wouldn't you say?
Yes, no question. Well, Khamenei is now dead, right? So he took over from Khomeini, and his son is not what the father is or was. There's no question about that. So keep going, Ken. You're on a roll.
No, Mustafa's alive. But you know what? The people who really had the power in the recent years, that are causing all of the trouble throughout the Middle East and throughout the world, for that matter, 3 people. Ali Khamenei. We know what happened to him on the last day of February, don't we? Bye-bye. Then just a few weeks later, his right-hand man, he's the guy who was really carrying out all the murder on the streets of Tehran the first week of January. He goes out on the streets, thinks he's safe, and a couple of days later, gone. That would be Ali Larijani, number 2. And we're wondering why suddenly we have a peace deal. I don't know how it's all going to turn out, but I'll tell you what I view it as. I think about a week ago we lost number 3, Ahmad Vahidi. Wasn't that the speculation last Tuesday? Well, I'm kind of thinking it was. They got no brains left, Jeff. Nothing. Nobody that knows how to lead this mess. Because Vahidi was bigger than people think. He was the biggest thug. He was the thug before Soleimani. You remember Soleimani?
Oh, yeah.
Trump
took him out, too. Was it that missile strike? I believe it was 2019. And the Iranians admitted that taking out Soleimani, just to add to your point, Ken, was the equivalent of losing a big city. Have you just like nuked or evaporated a big city? That it was a body blow to the Iranian regime. So, no, you're right, Ken. Look, we've taken out some of the heart and soul of the regime. The heart and soul of the regime has now been ripped out. No question. Ken, do you think now is the time to, was now the time to strike a deal? And do you think we'll get what we want in the 60-day negotiations?
Yes, I'm saying now, following Vahidi, I think that's why they're like, got nothing left. So, geez, maybe we ought to just try to get some money and heal up. But we have them as a dog on a leash, at least for as long as we have this president. Because for all the critics, I don't care if you're left, center, right, who would you rather have as president right now? You got a better one? I don't. We have the right person for the right time. Historically, we will for years thank him for doing the brave thing that no one else would have.
Interesting. So, Ken, on the poll question, was the Iran conflict worth it? Your answer is not just yes, it's hell yes, correct?
For my kids and grandkids, hell yes. A better future.
Ken, thank you very much for that call. Okay, Ken says yes. Frankly, many of you are saying yes. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Yes. Well, this is a one-way deal, and it's only a deal for Iran. Once again, Trump is.
Arthur, please hang on. We're not cutting you off for censorship reasons. We would never do that. Okay, President Trump now says with this agreement or memorandum of understanding that has now been signed by both him and the president of Iran, they'll have a formal ceremonial signing on Friday in Switzerland. Trump now may be going. J.D. Vance was scheduled to go. He may still be the one that goes and actually does the official ceremonial, signature on the document. Trump now says he may want to go himself. Trump says we now have, his words, peace in our time. This deal will lead to regional peace and security, a new era with Iran, that the conflict is now over. They have agreed to never develop a nuclear weapon or purchase one again. And the Strait of Hormuz will now be reopened officially this Friday. We will lift the blockade simultaneously. And if Iran goes through the 60-day negotiations and agrees to eventually get rid of their enrichment process and to hand over the enriched uranium, their stockpile, they will then be rewarded with the lifting of sanctions and billions of dollars in unfreezing of their assets. Good deal, bad deal. In retrospect now, was this a victory for the United States? A defeat or some kind of a draw or stalemate? What say you? 617-266-6868. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur. Please pick up where you left off. You're obviously not happy with the deal. Tell us why.
Well, very, very, very simple, Jeff. I mean, this is the only country in the world that even the Nazis didn't say death to America. So the Kaiser didn't say death to America. Even the Russians don't say death. This is the only country that says death to America, and they mean it. This regime means it because they've been sending our boys back in body bags. They've been sending our boys back with no limbs, no arms. They've been doing it for years. They were responsible for the 280 Marines killed in that barracks disaster, and they've been doing it they've never kept any deal. And this isn't a deal for somebody who lost. This is a deal for somebody. I mean, this isn't a deal for somebody who won. It's a deal for somebody who was supposedly who lost. And it's all about the fact that we couldn't open up a 20-mile strait. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. And to call this the greatest deal of all time, this is a total betrayal. And it's not just about Israel, okay? Israel has been under a terrorist attack, fighting for their life since the day that they were made a state in 1948. They've been after one war after another, and and every time they call for cease, they made a peace deal with all these people and saying, well, you're going to have peace. There's never going to be peace in the Middle East if you allow the main terrorist nation of the world to stay in power with the same people. They're just not going to do it. And what about the 40,000 innocent people that were murdered at the beginning of this war, that gave their lives in the hope that finally somebody would come and free them? And by freeing them, that's when you free the world from this terrorist regime. And Hezbollah is Iran. The Palestinians and Hamas are Iran. And the only country in the Middle East that is truly a peace-wanting country, that's Jordan. They've helped Israel. They don't want to go to war with Israel. They want peace. And the fact that Israel is shut out of it after they bombed Iran with the U.S., this is a total betrayal. And to call it the greatest deal ever, and he's the only president in the world that could have got this deal. A 3-year-old could have got this deal. This is not a deal for America. This is not a deal for the world, and it has no verification in it. I mean, this is. I just can't believe. I think the man needs more sleep. He's lost his mind. Everything to him, he calls everything he does amazing, fabulous, the greatest thing of all time. A while back, he said he was calling for unconditional surrender. I guess we're the ones that gave in to Iran and gave them unconditional surrender. Well, how are we winning? Okay, if we're going to lift sanctions, the last time we lifted sanctions and gave them a pile of money, they used it for terrorism, and they're going to do it again. Leopards never change their spots.
Arthur, I'm just curious. Do you think that now that they're going to sign this agreement, memorandum of understanding, you're going to have 60 days, in theory, a ceasefire, negotiations? Is Iran just going to continue to do what they did during the last ceasefire, which is launch drones, attack commercial vessels, embolden Hezbollah to keep lobbing missiles or bombs or drones into Israel? In other words, they're just going to continue to violate the ceasefire and just go back and forth with either us, Israel, or commercial ships in the Strait. And so we're just going to see more of the same. What we've seen the last 60 days, we're going to see again for the next 60 days. In other words, and we're going to be back and forth. Is it on? Is it off? Are we, is the ceasefire on? Is it not on? Is that what we're really going to get for the next 60 days? Just more of the same?
Sure, they're going to be a good boy for a little bit until they can get the U.S. presence out of there. And once they move out, you see, Iran has a habit of signing their deals in invisible ink. After a while, it wears off, and they may behave for a little bit, but you know what? They've been doing the same thing for 47 years. History doesn't change. The people, terrorists, have been terrorists since the beginning of the Middle East, going back to the Crusades. And all these people want to do is kill people who don't believe the way they do and oppress people. And the fact that we betrayed those 40,000 people who gave their lives, and we haven't even given them weapons. We haven't even done anything to help them. It's really a sad day for America. But you know what? I would vote for Trump. I would vote for Trump because the alternative is worse. And when you want to talk about gas prices, the first day that Biden became president, the first thing he did was get gas prices higher than this, and he did it because he hated this country, and we got high gas prices. And what did he get them for? Just because he wanted to give us
right.
high gas.
The Green New Deal and war on fossil fuels. No, you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. Arthur, thank you very much for that call. I appreciate it. No, that's why I find incredible. All these liberals and Democrats are complaining about high gas. What'd you give us under Biden? With Trump, say what you want, agree or disagree with the war. We know why the gas prices went up because of the war. Well, under Biden, it was a deliberate policy by the Democrats in the name of climate change and the Green New Deal to wage war on fossil fuels. So make gas so expensive that you have to force people to buy EVs. Okay, listen now to Vice President J.D. Vance. He was on Fox saying that the primary message that both he and, of course, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, have for the American people is thank you. Because of our patience to hold out and win the war, now not just gas prices are going to start coming down, but Iran will never acquire a nuclear weapon, and potentially Iran will become a partner of the United States, and a new Middle East is being born. Roll cut 2, Mike.
My primary message to the American people is thank you. Because of your patience, I think that we've solved the problem that has plagued this country again for well before I was even born, which is a terrorist supporting Iran that was pursuing a nuclear weapon. We are now at a place here where we can say with confidence they're not going to get a nuclear weapon. And again, if they comply with the broader elements of the deal, this entire region, I mean, think about this. For 40 years, if you've heard about the Middle East as an American, you've heard about war, you've heard about terrorism, you've heard about the constant chaos of the region. What the president has done is created the real space to transform that region, cooperation between the Gulf Arab allies and the Israelis, and now hopefully a new era with the Iranians.
So do you believe now we are entering a new era with the Iranians? Personally, I don't. Again, look, there are elements of this that I think are a good, strong deal. Other elements I don't like, but I think they're overselling it. Personally, they're overselling this deal. You're dealing with a snake. It may be the third-rate snake. You're dealing, the third stringers, because we've taken out so much of their top leadership. But this is still the IRGC, still the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. It's still Khamenei's son, Moshtaba. It's still the Shiite fanatics. It's still a theocracy. They still despise Israel. They still hate us. I don't think anything has changed. But listen now to J.D. Vance, because he now says the one thing about the Middle East is they know how to fight because they've been fighting forever. What they don't know is peace. And he believes that this deal is now going to push them much closer to learning about peace and forgetting the ways of war and terrorism. Roll cut 3A, Mike.
People are very good over there at fighting each other. They haven't quite learned how to make peace. But I think under the president's leadership, we've turned over a new leaf. We're going to keep on working at it. I'm not going to say that everybody's going to sing Kumbaya tomorrow. It's going to take a little bit of time to learn the ways of peace. But I do think we took a major, major step tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to call it the way I see it. When have the Iranians ever known peace? When has the Middle East ever known peace? They've been at each other's throats for 2,000 years. Okay, just leave aside Israel just for a second. The Shia and the Sunni have been slaughtering each other since the birth of Islam. And now, all of a sudden, because of a memorandum of understanding, suddenly now there's a new Iran, it's a new regime, it's a new era, it's a new Middle East. Everybody, let's calm down a little bit. Look, let me tell you what would make the Kuhner man very happy, okay? That the Strait of Hormuz is completely reopened permanently, not just for 60 days, that they stop lobbing missiles and bombs and drones over the next 60 days, as they have over the last 60 days during the ceasefire after Operation Epic Fury, that Hezbollah stops, launching attacks into Israel, that Iran stops supporting their terrorist proxies because they haven't given that up, and that we have a verifiable mechanism in place that the Iranians agreed to, whereby we can dismantle their ability to enrich uranium and to get all of that highly enriched uranium that they have buried underneath out of Iran, out of their hands. I'm not asking to change the character of the regime, because I don't think you can change that. I thought Arthur in Chestnut Hill was 1,000% correct. A leopard's not going to change its spots. But don't give them ever the means to acquire the bomb. If they can do that, I'm a happy man. This idea now, it's going to be regional peace, regional prosperity, regional stability. Like I said, Iran's going to be turned into the Switzerland of the Persian Gulf. Hey, everybody, let's cool our jets a little bit. 617, that's just me. 617-266-6868. Ultimately, I don't trust them. I don't trust the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. I don't trust this so-called supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. I don't trust those thugs in Iran that are oppressing and enslaving that country. To me, any deal with them is a meaningless piece of paper. So we have to watch them and monitor them like a hawk. Because I guarantee you, they're never going to give up their nuclear ambitions. They can say, they're very two-faced. They'll say one thing out of one side of their mouth and then say the exact opposite from the other side. They're saying what needs to be said because they're looking to buy time. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Mike, who would you like me to go to, Mike? Maestro Mike. Alan in the great state of South Carolina. Thanks for holding, Alan, and welcome.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Alan?
Great, great. Hey, I'm going to start off with a question for you. Have you ever read Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership?
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. Great book, great principles. One of the principles is prioritize and execute. And I know this is kind of hindsight at this point, but in my mind, this would be the order of priorities that should have taken place, and then I'll get to the Iran deal itself. So, number one, we had the secure border. We got that. Okay, good. Next, mass deportations. Get the illegals out of this country. Two, or no, I guess, yeah, after that, remove Thune as Senate Majority Leader. I know Trump can't do that, but he can apply pressure to the 5 senators that would be necessary to make that happen. Get him out of the picture because he's a pimple on the rear end of progress. Then nuke the filibuster, pass the Save America Act, win the dang midterms, then, and only then, put Iran in its place. Now, that would have been my roadmap. Now, as far as the deal itself, I'll just say this. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So we got some good stuff out of this, and as long as it doesn't cost us the midterms, I'm okay with it. But there's still a lot of things that can happen between now and November that will not go in our favor. So that's my only concern.
Well, Alan, look, by the way, I think your priority list is superb, is absolutely superb. We have to secure the border. He did it. We have to now deport these illegals. We're deporting, but we have not deported all of them, far from it. And Thune is a backstabber. He's a Judas. We have to get rid of him because we need to have safe, fair, and free elections. You're right. We have to pass the SAVE Act because the Democrats are going to try to steal it again. I think there's no question. California has proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. So, and we have to keep the communists from winning, the commie-crats from winning in November. And so I agree with your list of priorities right down the line. My concern, and I want to know if you agree or disagree, is I think we're going to continue to see skirmishes. I don't think this is going to, in other words, I don't think it's going to be all of a sudden 60 days and it's all sunshine and rainbows for 60 days and they're going to just peacefully negotiate with us. I think they're going to continue to push. They're going to continue to launch missiles, drones. They're going to continue to harass Israel. They're going to want to goad Israel into striking back, especially against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And they're going to try to tear this thing up because ultimately the mullahs do not want a peace deal. That's my concern. And so Trump has gone down in popularity. All the polls now show it. He has taken a beating in the polls because of the war. The war, whatever you think of it, 60% of Americans fully oppose the war, and they blame him. So he's got to get his popularity up before November. He's got to get gas, energy, and oil prices down before November. He's got to get the cost of living down before November. If not, it's going to be a bloodbath in the midterms. I don't know if the mullahs will allow him to do that because they would love to restart something, reignite something, block the Strait of Hormuz again. In other words, I'm not even sure they're going to follow through on 60 days. Never mind, 6 months or, the next couple of years, or they're talking a new era in the Middle East, the next 50 years. I'm like, forget 50 years. I'm just worried about the next 5 weeks. So my concern is because the Iranians, the mullahs and the Democrats have formed an alliance. To me, it's a treasonous alliance. It's an alliance of a Benedict Arnold. It's an alliance between two arch enemies of the United States. And that is the Democrats want Trump defeated and impeached. The mullahs want Trump defeated and impeached. And both are working together to make that happen. So I don't believe the Iranians are negotiating in good faith. Trump is, J.D. Vance is, Rubio, Witkoff is, no question, but not the Ayatollah, not the IRGC. And so let me ask you, Alan, will the Iranians even give Trump the breathing space to just focus on the midterms? Or do you think the missiles and the drones and the bombs will start flying again, whether from the Iranians or from Hezbollah or from the Houthis or from one of their other terrorist proxies? What say you, Alan?
I don't trust them as hard as I can throw them. They've proven to be, completely unreliable just in the last, within the last 4 months. Quote unquote agreements being made. We're going to scale back, whatever, and then they just start up again. I mean, just recent history proves that they can't be trusted. Then you go back the entire 47 years. I mean, good Lord. I mean, there's no way we can trust these guys. I'm just, like I said, I would have gone that other priority angle, and then you got 2 years, your last 2 years in office, then go and, have at it with them, and, what's the repercussions at that point?
I know, Alan. Look, I think you've laid it out very well, really. Look, even Trump will admit, Trump has admitted this to his credit. He's in many ways, he's an open, honest man. He's like an open book. He says, look, I prefer a deal. Why do I prefer a deal? He goes, because I got the midterms breathing down my neck. If I go to war and we extend this for another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, oil and energy is going to go up even more. Inflation is going to go up even more. Then the Democrats are really going to crucify me in November. So the whole time he's been operating within a limited time period. That's why, and the way they sold him the war, again, to be fair to him, was this thing will be over in 10 days. Hegseth told him there is no need to worry about the Strait of Hormuz because by the 10th day, Iran will sign a surrender. General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, laid out a plan, and he told the president the Iranians are most likely going to try to block the Strait of Hormuz. It's the logical move. And Trump said, well, we got to prevent that. We got to preempt that. And Hegseth and Lindsey Graham and that clown Keane on Fox News and Mark Thiessen and Bibi, to be fair, said, no, it's going to be Venezuela. Just kick the door down and the whole rotten structure will collapse. Kill the Ayatollah, kill the top leadership of the IRGC, decapitate the hardline political leadership, and that's it. The regime will crumble. The people will come out on the streets, and they'll be chanting your name. They won't even get a chance to go near the Strait of Hormuz. So they said, okay, why bother? And I believe it was the central mistake of the war. Okay, now, there are many good things about the war, obviously. I mean, frankly, amazing things about the war. But if you're asking me, Jeff, what was the central mistake? That was the central mistake. That, to me, was no question. Because had Iran never gotten control over the Strait of Hormuz, I mean, they'd be finished. They would have no leverage, nothing to negotiate with. They would be talking surrender right now. Instead, they managed to fight and live another day. And I'm sorry. I know I'm going to get a lot of blowback for this. Hegseth should resign. And my prediction, he's not going to finish the Trump second term as Secretary of Defense. He gave the president horrible advice. Horrible advice. And I believe it badly hurt us in this war. They snatched a stalemate from the jaws of victory. That's my honest opinion. Alan, thank you so much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868. Rob in North Andover. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Rob?
Like I told Sandy, I'm great. The weather's great. I think the World Cup's been great, but I am totally disgusted. And if someone would have told me I'd be saying these words 6, 8 months, 10 months ago,
I think they were on crack. This guy, the president that I voted for a couple times, is just got me in a complete. He's just ruined this whole thing. I've never been so disappointed. You know, and like Arthur said earlier, and everything you heard out of his mouth, amazing. I did the best job. I made an excellent. It's just torturous now. I can't even stand looking at him anymore. It's just. I can't believe I'm talking like this. And you know, you talk about the midterms, complete bloodbath. Complete bloodbath. People remember. People have a memory. It's only a few months away. You know, people are going to the gas station every day, the grocery market every day, and it's out of reach. And he just wasted the last 4 months and cost us billions and billions of dollars. And I'm a big Hegseth fan, but you're right. I can't stand him anymore. And I just can't. I don't believe a word Trump says anymore. And listen to this, what I'm going to say. This is outrageous. I can't even believe I'm going to spit these words out. I would have rather had Biden in the last couple of years, coming from the biggest Trump supporter in the world. I can't believe I'm saying it.
No, why would you rather have Biden in?
Put us in this mess and cost us billions of dollars.
Oh, you're saying you're that disappointed. Oh, wow. Okay. Rob,
yeah,
I don't want to get too personal, and if I am, please tell me. I promise I won't be offended. Were you against the war from the very beginning? In other words, were you just saying it was a bad idea, don't do it? Or were you initially in favor of the war, but now you've soured over the conduct of the war and, I guess, the end result?
The war, because I believed he was going to go in and in 14 days end it, and it would have been over. Instead, he dragged it on and cost us millions of dollars, and everybody's suffering.
Interesting. Rob, thank you very much for that call. Kuhner country is divided. I mean, it's very obvious to me. This audience is badly divided on the war. Some of you say the Iran conflict was worth it. Some of you just heard Rob. You had Arthur as well. You had others who are saying it was not worth it. So let me ask you, was the Iran conflict worth it? That is the Kuhner country poll question of the day. I want to hear from you. Okay, I want to ask you, because Sandy and I were just talking about this off air, and I think it's a great point that she's made. She said, you know, Jeff, maybe we should ask the callers even a more fundamental question than whether you like the deal, don't like the deal, was the conflict worth it, not worth it, which are obviously very important questions. But on an even more basic level, do you think the Iranian regime is even going to uphold what they have agreed to in this so-called agreement, this memorandum of understanding? Will they even abide by the terms of what they're signing to? And her point was, I don't trust them. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. And I'm like, you know, Sandy, I'm with you. That's why, again, I don't mean to be raining on people's parade. I'm saying I don't, like, to me, I look at this, I'm like, I don't trust them for anything. I just don't trust them. So no, I don't think they'll abide by the terms. That's why, in a way, I'm listening to JD and I'm like, yeah, everything what you and Trump are saying, it's honorable, it's visionary, yeah, I can see you're looking at a great future for the region, for the United States. I get what you're trying to say, but you're dealing with, snakes that crawl on their belly. There's snakes in the grass. I think within 48 hours after they sign this thing on Friday, you're going to start to see violations on their side, left, right, and center. And so I think that's the problem. You just can't make a deal with them. I think that's the problem. It's not what's in the piece of paper. It's the other side on the negotiating table. They won't honor anything they sign. Agree, disagree. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
Yeah. Okay, this is a multifaceted situation. You know, it wasn't long ago when the Shiite bums were running Syria. That is no longer true. Syria is no longer an ally of Iran. They have an embassy there. There's nobody in it, okay? They're not pals anymore. What was going to happen was Qatar and Saudi Arabia were going to run lines, gas and oil, to Syria over to the Mediterranean Sea. End of story. Assad did not want to do that. He was with the Russians. He was with Iran. That's over, okay? It's a Sunni world, not a Shiite world. Hezbollah are Shiites. Hamas supposedly is Sunni. They're run by the Shiites. And those bums in Iran are Shiites. So the focus should be two things. Let's take the pattern of ensuring tankers, protecting tankers going through that ridiculous bottle hole and continue with the pipeline that's going to go east to west, okay? That should solve a major issue in cutting down their lifeline, which is oil. China, North Korea, and Russians, they do their own oil and natural gas amongst themselves. They do not depend on them. So cut down their oil market, and there's $24 billion. I'm sorry. Oh, by the way, you're not getting the $24 billion. As a matter of fact, we're going to do you a favor. You're going to pay for the pipelines that are being built, maybe $10, $15 billion. How does that sound? In the meantime, if they want to attack, we retaliate. Okay. So what I'm saying is, let them be lessened with their leverage in their oil. Nobody want to pay for it. Part two, big oil. China, 70% of its oil comes from big oil. And guess what? They're also heavily invested in big oil. Big oil is part of the problem. It is an artificial market. We should be doing nothing but natural gas or whatever. Forget the solar crap to produce our energy. If you go with capitalism, it'll rectify itself. These old family bums who've been running big oil, they've had their day. That day should be over. So it's a two-part thing. You don't give them the $24 billion, and you actually deduct, right?
I agree. Nick, I agree. No, I agree. Look, I think they should pay reparations. I think the Iranians owe us, the Israelis, the region, their neighbors. I mean, like everybody's forgetting. I don't mean this audience, but I'm talking about, commentators on TV. I mean, who is hitting the United Arab Emirates? It was the mullahs during this war. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, they destroyed their airport. The oil infrastructure in Qatar and other places, all being destroyed by the Iranians. No. You owe your neighbors a ton of cash. Now, look, this is why I'm very skeptical of the deal, and has nothing to do with President Trump, any American president. It doesn't matter. In the skirmish between Israel and Hezbollah, okay, that Trump got very angry with Bibi Netanyahu about, the Iranians came out and said, and I'm quoting now verbatim, quote, Lebanon is our lifeblood. Meaning they will never and can never abandon Hezbollah. That as far as they're concerned, because of Hezbollah's strong presence within Lebanon, Lebanon is essentially now, whatever you want to call it, a vassal, a satellite, a colony of Tehran. And they say we will never give that up. So what they're really saying is Hezbollah and Israel are going to continue to fight. They're not interested in peace. They want the great Satan out of the region so they can finish off the little Satan, Israel. There is a myth, and it's clearly a myth, that the Democrats are peddling, that the media is peddling, their allies, and that the dear leader, Barack Hussein Obama, is peddling, which is that it's essentially what Trump is now getting out of this memorandum of understanding is pretty much the same thing that Obama got, but without the bombing and the blockade. And what they're trying to argue is, and you heard Nick talk about it, the administration is promising Iran $24 billion in unfrozen assets, but only after the 60 days, and Iran has agreed to get rid of all of that, what Trump calls nuclear dust, all of their enriched uranium stockpile, either destroyed or disposed of, or they hand it over to us, plus completely dismantling their ability to enrich uranium. So in other words, they will have no nuclear program of any kind whatsoever. And they keep the Strait of Hormuz fully opened. If they do that, then they get $24 billion in unfrozen assets and the lifting of sanctions. So Obama is trying to claim, well, I gave them billions and billions of dollars, 1.7 billion on pallets, cash, that we secretly flew into Tehran. So it's the same deal without the bombing and the higher oil and gas prices. Listen now to the dear leader on ABC, roll cut 12, Mike.
In retrospect, it's a reminder that on a lot of difficult foreign policy problems, the notion that we can just bully our way or bomb our way to solutions may sometimes seem appealing, but the fact of the matter is that taking the time to explore diplomacy and exhaust the possibilities of coming up with deals that don't solve 100% of the problem, but solve 80, 90% of the problem, while avoiding the necessity of going to war. You'd think we would have learned that lesson by now, but it seems like every so often we have to relearn that lesson again.
I mean, honestly, go blank off. I'm sorry, blank you. After what you've done to this country, you have the nerve, the gall, as the Jews would say, the chutzpah, to even show your face on television, never to mind to blab that garbage, that propaganda. First of all, let's just set the record straight. No one did more to enrich and embolden the Ayatollahs in Iran, those Islamo-fascists, than you. You flooded that regime with billions of dollars. You bribed that regime with billions of dollars. And what did they do with that money? They built up their nuclear weapons program. They built it up. The ballistic missiles that they were shooting that killed 13 of our service members, you were the one that paid for that, you disgusting traitor. Their drones, you built that up. Their entire military arsenal, you built that up. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, what do you think paid for their weapons? It was your money. Your blood money. That's what it was. And to me, what is most disgusting of all, and that's why this comparison it's beyond revolting. It's beyond sickening. He gave them the path to the bomb. Had we followed through on the JCPOA, as it was called, okay, his deal, as we speak right now, a couple of years ago, Iran would have legally been entitled and allowed to have a nuclear weapon. They'd have a nuke. They would have gotten it under Biden. Because the JCPOA allowed, after an expiration date, for the mullahs to have the bomb. So he's like, we can't bully our way. We can't bomb our way. I got 80, 90% of what we needed. You piece of you-know-what. Now, there is no comparison between the two, and I'll tell you why. Whatever you think about this deal, good, bad, mixed, you think it was a victory, a defeat, a stalemate, it doesn't matter. Compared to Obama, here's the difference. Obama put them on the path to the bomb. Obama gave them the money to build the bomb. There's no question. And everything else. President Trump, through Operation Epic Fury, destroyed Iran's nuclear program. It's gone. Gone to the wind. Now, can they reconstitute? Yes, because there wasn't regime change. Okay? I'm not saying you should have done it, whatever. I'm just stating a fact. So you don't, it's not like the Shah's son is in power. If Iran became a constitutional monarchy, they wouldn't pursue the bomb, period. So, no, it didn't permanently get rid of Iran's nuclear program, but it has set them back at least 10 to 15 years. Their program and their enriched uranium is buried under tons and tons of rubble on 3 nuclear sites that the mullahs can't get to, or it's going to take them years to get to. So the difference is Trump not only destroyed their military, Trump destroyed their capacity to get a nuclear bomb. Their nuclear program has been annihilated. It has been shattered into 1,000 pieces for at least a generation. You wanted to give them the bomb. Trump denied them the bomb. And you're going to say it's very similar? They're polar opposites. Because in the end, you and Trump are polar opposites. He's a patriot. You're a traitor. Now put that in your crack pipe and smoke it. Mike, do me a favor. Roll cut 23 again, please. That's from last night's UFC. This was a UFC fighter who won his fight and then said what so many in America are thinking. This is for you, dear leader. This is for you, Obama. Roll cut 23, Mike.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
Yeah, dear leader, just shut up and go away, okay? Do us all a favor. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
I think the most underrated statement that has not been made yet is we're about ready to celebrate our 250th anniversary on this 4th of July, that this is the first time in American history that we've never, ever negotiated with a terrorist country. I think that's what needs to be said here.
I'm sorry, CJ. Can you repeat that again? Because Mike was in my ear telling me we're up against the break. In fact, do me a favor. CJ, please hang on. I'm going to come right back to you. Okay, CJ in Boston, hang on. I promise we're going to come right to you. But it's Monday, 9:50. You know what that means. Talk back, tit for tat. Your voices, your reactions, your heart, the true heartbeat of Kuhner country. We asked, you answered, and now we're sharing the best of this week's messages. Roll it, a mic.
Jeff, why for all your ethnic accents turn out to be Russian? I mean, even that's a pretty bad accent, if you ask me.
I think you're smart. I really think you're smart, and I think you make good choices. Have a good day.
Just because we're finding fault or criticizing President Trump doesn't mean we're jumping ship. Look at the alternative. I'll stick with him to the end.
Oh my God, Jeff, you're lying now. You saying propaganda.
This is all waste of time, this conversation.
Liberalism's worst nightmare? Really, Jeff? I see those videos you keep posting on X wearing those tight shorts. You're liberalism's wet dream, my friend.
it's just going to be an endless war that we're funding. It's another Afghanistan. I say no, 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 no. Light this place up and come home.
I think the world has gone nuts, and I think the vaccine had good batches and bad batches, and the bad batches are making people's brain cells go dead.
It is said, beware of false prophets, for they come to you in sheep's clothing.
How come nobody bashes Mike? That's what I want to know. You know? I mean, it's just, you can bash Mike. It's okay. You know, or Sandy, or, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's just, I mean, I'm not saying anybody really bashed me that hard. Although I thought your ethnic accents always go back to Russian, and even the Russian one isn't very good. I thought that was very funny. That was very, very funny. But it's also very true, Mike is saying in my ear. But, boy, you love to pile on, huh, Mike? You love it. You just can't help yourself. Anyway, please, don't be shy to bash Mike, okay? Or Sandy, or, I'm just saying, you know? But thank you, because they're funny. They're really, really funny. I look forward to this segment every single week. So please keep them coming. Okay, let's go right back to CJ in Boston. CJ, you were saying just before the break that President Trump, the United States now, has done something we have never done in our nearly 250 years as a nation. Please, what is it? And pick up where you left off.
What it is, Jeff, is negotiating with an internationally recognized terrorist country. That will go down in the history books, and that's something that won't be removed. But Benjamin Netanyahu, he's got it right. As Arthur said, he has it right. These groups, the Houthis and others, who are bent on killing Israelis and taking their country. You kill a cancer, you take it all out. You don't leave a portion and allow it to grow again. He is completely right. I think Trump made a big mistake here. And as I said a few weeks ago, I doubted the reports that were coming out. We had a blockade. However, it was the Iranians who were in control of the Strait of Hormuz. How could that be if we have the greatest military in the world, which I believe we do? So what was preventing them from taking over the Strait of Hormuz at that point? I think now we need to recognize that over 47 years, the Iranians have never stuck to any type of deal. And it's wishful thinking that they're going to stick to this deal. And as previously stated, that nuclear protection is the only real protection in today's world. That's what happened in 1994 when Bill Clinton convinced the Ukrainians to get rid of their missiles. If they had those missiles, the Russians would have never come into Ukraine. What I would suggest to the president now is to please be quiet.
Well, CJ, we're up against it. But no, look, the sad reality is the only ultimate protection you have is by having nukes.